and welcome back, everybody. We are here after amazing best of three between Alex and Marco. But this is going to be our third stream match. I myself am Costa, and I am joined by the ever so lovely Mr. Adam Doricott. How's it going, Adam?
It's going well. I mean, I've watched the first two matches with you guys. They've been pretty good, so setting a tone for the really good rest of the day. And I think that's all we can ask for. I mean, we've got a lot of events on the horizon, I think, and to see players who we've seen in previous formats do well and keep doing well, pretty much all we can ask for. Hopefully more best of threes, not obviously 2 games, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. As we are going to be having yet another spicy set for you lovely people at home. This is going to be between Francesco Pio versus Max Gill, as we are going to go ahead and transition straight into their player profiles, as there was a bit of a delay in trying to set both these players up, but don't worry, rest assured, we are here right now. They are primed and ready. Francesco's player profile is on the screen. He's done exceptionally well recently. He's shown that he is actually on form, as he did amazingly well in the Players Cup 3 Global Finals. He got top 4 in the VR Circuit Sprint Qualifier, the first one actually, whilst going ahead and in other grassroots events being able to actually win the whole event for the Battle Palace, as well as actually an old achievement of his own back in real life events in 2017, whilst in seniors getting top 4 in the Turin special event, and rocking another Registeel, Adam, from what it looks like.
Yeah, Registeel making a surprising number of appearances, but a number of fun things on the team. I think the Spectre is something that a lot of people are playing around with. Now we've rolled over into this newer rule set. And of course that Galarian Moltres that did well when we were in, I believe, 7, kind of making another appearance. I did follow Francesco quite a lot during the Players Cup 3, watching him put on a really good run there, and some really good games. So hopefully we're going to get more of those as he plays in this top 16.
So we will be going ahead and going onto the player profile of his opponent today, Max Gill from Spain. Not as many achievements, but then again, all within the same timeline. 2021 right now, runner-up of the VR Circuit Sprint Qualifier, the 5th and final one that we had 2 weeks ago, as well as a top 32 that was able to go ahead, catapult himself straight into the 10th seed of these grand finals, rocking a very familiar team, Adam, being that Sun mode, accompanied by the Porygon 2, Landorus, Incineroar, and that Regieleki.
Yeah, we all knew it was going to come back. We all knew as soon as the rules kind of reset to where we'd been playing before, the Torkoal Venusaur was going to be a factor. People were learning how good Porygon 2 was. Again, well, I feel we learn this lesson every single series, and if it's going to continue to work, may as well tap into it. Max seems like one of those players that I'm really interested to kind of watch playing against somebody who's played in some of the bigger tournaments. You know, we looked at Francesco's achievements, really, really good over a number of years, but we've been inside for over a year now, and a lot of players have picked up the game, really learned it through all their extra time at home, and these are the players that I want to see when we go back to those in-person events in the future. You know, can they convert from online success into, of course, in-person success as well? So following a player like Max is pretty interesting for me.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about that. It's a whole different situation and dynamic of actually rocking up in physical presence at those matches, trying to make sure that you are very smart about preserving all of your resources, because it's a lot to do with mental exertion as well as physical, because it is a lot of walking around, a lot of waiting around at times if things naturally do get delayed too.
Well, back in my day, we didn't even have chairs at some of our tournaments. You had to kneel on the floor. So times has changed. But with that in mind, let's take a look and see how the game is going, as we're going to be diving right on in.
Right on in, indeed. As we did mention, we had to be seeing it from Francesco's side of the field, and this does seem to be turn 1 right now of game 1. Apologies for the swiftness of getting into this. We did have delays, like we did mention before, but right now, Grimmsnarl, Spectre on Francesco's side, and Porygon 2, Venusaur over on Max's side.
Yeah, a bit of a classic there. The Porygon 2 and Venusaur pairing up really nicely once again. I mean, they just seem to have some really good synergies, and unsurprisingly, opening up with that Dynamax, just getting the Venusaur to do the things that it loves to do, which is set up residual damage and deal huge damage while it's doing it as well.
as that Venusaur is going to go ahead and exert a lot of pressure. But before that, we actually see the Grimmsnarl going first due to its Prankster priority. Snarl following immediately after being able to drop the special attack of both the Venusaur and the Porygon 2, in this case, only to get reset due to that Max Ooze going into the Grimmsnarl slot. As in this situation, I wasn't 100% sure if the Grimmsnarl did set up a light screen. I don't think it did. It may have been a taunt there, as we do see the Porygon 2 targeting the Grimmsnarl. We see the double up into it, but not being enough to pick up a KO.
No, and I think that Spectre landing the Snarl really important there. You know, it kind of buys Francesco a little bit of time to try and weave around that. The Grimmsnarl not getting anything done by missing what I believe is a Thunder Wave there. Would have been really nice to land that and cause that kind of problem. But the Snarl bought enough time. It lowered the special attacks, and I think, you know, if the Max Ooze was coming off a full special attack, would have been better. And if that Max Ooze had then boosted up and helped the Porygon 2 out, that Grimmsnarl could have been removed. So Francesco took a lot of damage. But it's all on the Grimmsnarl, which is probably not the worst thing. He's trying it again, and there it is. He does land the Thunder Wave this time. So that Venusaur not in the best position.
As we do see the taunt coming out from the Spectrian now into the Porygon 2 slot. So Francesco asserting speed control dominance there whilst wanting to shut down Trick Room. As we see the Ice Beam coming out from this from that Porygon 2 into the Spectrian slot. No double up being followed up from this Venusaur. Just a clean KO onto the Grimmsnarl. Being able to now actually bring itself up to +1 of its special attack. Even though it is paralyzed, it is still a force to be reckoned with. But then again, Francesco does still have Dynamax on his side of the field too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Pokemon, yes, it's been Thunder Waved, yes, it's been able to land those Max Oozes, but it's also taken a really small amount of damage, and it's going to be a tough old one to try and get through in the last turn of its Dynamax, so maybe looking to try and wait that out. I think this Spectre has been really interesting, providing a whole lot of support. I mean, Spectre is very fast, it's very powerful, but now it's been snarling and deciding to land those taunts as well, so playing things a little bit differently, I guess, to how some people would, but it seems to be very effective, and even though he's lost that Pokemon, he's held onto his Dynamax, and he's got through the first 2 turns right now of the Dynamax over on Max's side.
As the Snarl does come out now, does once again bring that Venusaur's special attack down to neutral, as the Nasty Plot actually comes out from this Galarian Moltres on Francesco's side, will be going ahead, giving that itself that +2 of special attack, whilst the Porygon 2 just wants to target this Spectre, maybe try to fish for a cheeky little freeze if it can, as the double up, goes ahead, guarantees that KO, the Ice Beam to both of them, putting it within range, of course, whilst able to capitalize off of setting up that G-Max Vine Lash residual damage, as we do see on our screens right now.
Yep, that's really important, and I think this Venusaur's, even though it's clearly been something Francesco's a little bit concerned about, he's been able to kind of weather it really well, you know, and land, you know, a number of big moves, getting damage down, getting that residual damage down. And I think it's interesting, Francesco's really played this one quite slow, considering the Pokemon he's had available. And now he has to pick his Dynamax really carefully. I think, you know, Moltres is a real good candidate for after the Nasty Plot, but Landorus here could be, you know, hitting both things. So a number of good options, and I think even though it's down to the last 2, Francesco is going to be able to bring this one rather close.
Exactly, as the Landorus now on Francesco's side of the field, I do like it. We do know, of course, due to the team pace being provided and open to the public, that this Venusaur does have Cobra Berry, but like you were talking about, Adam, the situation is the fact that Francesco has a lot of momentum that he's just able to go ahead and select into. It just all depends on which Pokemon he wants to Dynamax right now to absolutely capitalize off of this, but Max is going to go ahead and try to get some switching maneuvers going, brings in the Incineroar for the Porygon 2, as it will be going ahead getting that drop onto the Landorus with its Intimidate ability, and finally we're going to find out, Adam, which Dynamax is going up for Francesco.
Yeah, this is going to be really important in his ability to kind of swing this game back, but he's got a lot of offensive pressure on the board, obviously taken down a little bit there by the Intimidate, but Landorus just needs to do enough bits to allow Molchez to kind of start cleaning up. This is now the focal point of this team, being able to say, okay, Molchez, you do all of the work, and we'll go from there. So, you know, it's a tough old start.
A tough all start indeed, as the Rockslide did come out from that slot. The double up, going ahead, not actually even opting to go for max airstream with that Moltres, as of course, both of Francesco's Pokemon are faster than the paralyzed Venusaur right there outside of Sun, definitely. But more importantly, wants to try to get those special defense boosts going. And we see the Sleep Powder coming out and connecting onto that Galarian Moltres, which unfortunately for Francesco does not carry a safety goggles to absolutely ignore those powder moves.
I think that may have just pushed the game very much into Max's favor there. I mean, the Moltres was the win condition here, and being able to say, well, you actually don't get to play with it. You're spending way too much time focusing down my what was Porygon, now was Incineroar. You know, I've dealt with your Landorus, and this is how I'm going to deal with the Moltres. So really good play, even without the Sun, you know, without the speed boost, while paralyzed, Venusaur is still able to do a whole lot of work. So we'll see exactly how that one decides to go.
The Rock Slide does come out and connects with both of Max's Pokemon, whilst Moltres does stay asleep. Sludge Bomb comes out, of course, due to it being asleep, cannot get poisoned, as the Trick Room is now on the field for Max's side. There was a chance for the Venusaur not even being able to get any sort of attacks off due to both the paralysis chance and the flinch chance, but Max is now turning this game back onto its head right now.
It seems a little bit disrespectful of Venusaur. I mean, it's been around for so long, it's been performing so well, and yes, he's tried to bring answers, you know, and tried to bring the Moltres and the Landorus and you know, deal with it through some paralysis as well from that Grimmsnarl, but clearly that's not enough to deal with it, and it's sat on the field through this whole game. It's completely weathered the storm, and, you know, Francesco just saying, all right, I'm not even going to try and play this one out anymore. This is just too much for me to deal with. You've still got another Pokemon. Okay, let's just go to the next one. And I think in game 2, priority number 1, deal with Venusaur.
It's true. It's like you said, he just disrespected it. He needed to get rid of it when he had the opportunity to do so, and it would have just gone. He had the momentum, essentially. It would have gone in his favor. He just needed to try to force the scenario, as we saw that Max did bide his time a bit, but he was able to successfully just get the Trick Room up once again when the Porygon 2 switched back in and completely got rid of the taunt situation for it.
Yeah, I mean, the taunt, I think, was, you know, nice to get rid of, but the switch into Incineroar, getting that Intimidate down is huge, and I just don't know if everything there was respectful enough of the Venusaur, and I think that this is going to be the crux of game number 2. What Max now has to do is play the Venusaur, I think play the Venusaur again, but play it differently. Maybe try and weave in the Torkoal, maybe try and weave in the Trick Room a little bit earlier, or just something a little bit different. So he has kind of the option. I think he's in the driving seat now to say, well, I played it one way in game 1 and I still won. You know, I've seen one of your answers. Maybe if there's a different answer, maybe the Moltres comes in a little bit earlier, just adapting to that.
Essentially. And I think, like you said, it's just going to be about positioning as well. I do like how Max played it out. Obviously, he did get a bit fortunate of going for the Sleep Powder, connecting, should I say. But then again, that's what Venusaur does. It's there to be a disruptor. It's there to go ahead, get G-Max Vine Lash going, whilst also threatening Sleep Powders if you allow it to still be on the field. So in this case, Francesco definitely needs to change it up. And hopefully for his sake, he can, but of course it will depend on what both trainers' strategies are going into this second game, as we see Landorus Regieleki coming out from oh my lord, I forgot his name.
It's Max who's completely mixed it up.
There we go.
He's dropped the Venusaur entirely for the lead, and I kind of like this, actually. I kind of like this just adaptation to just saying, well, if you're going to show me a Venusaur answer, which Francesco has actually just shown him the same lead, but maybe he feels even better about his way around it.
Yeah, I think so, because in this situation, he wants to try to get whatever damage output he can, try to position himself out. But actually, we're going to be seeing the Spectre switching out now on Francesco's side for the Landorus, something that Max wouldn't be liking at all in this scenario. Gets the Intimidate drop off to his own Landorus, whilst being immune to all electric-type moves from that Red Jalecki, as we are going to be seeing the light screen being set up from that Grimmsnarl. Electro Web coming out will not be affecting this Landorus, as we did make a note of there. It will be connecting onto the Grimmsnarl, getting a bit of chip damage down, as well as the speed, which in this scenario won't matter as much. But we see the U-turn coming out from Max's Landorus himself, gaining that pivot action going, and he will be free to bring in a new Pokemon of his choice.
Yeah, this could be really good for Max, actually, because he's seen the Landorus already. He knows that that's going to be there, and now he gets to bring kind of his answer to it. He wants to get the Incineroar in, once again, allow him that Intimidate, and be able to kind of maybe even just stop the Landorus to return if he needs to, and just allow that Regieleki to keep doing work. The Regioleki's in a bit of a tough position with the Landorus on the field, and the Grimmsnarl is not a premium target, in my opinion. But
yeah,
you know, and I know we were talking about this before we came live. You know, Regieleki as a Dynamax option is pretty scary now. A lot of people have been looking at it, and I was worried that we were going to see it with the Landorus coming in. So a number of options, and I think this Regieleki is going to be kind of important to Max in just making sure he can capitalize in the next couple turns with it.
We're going to actually be seeing the switch out and switch in now of this Spectre, and a Reflect being set up from this Grimmsnarl. So Francesco appreciating the slower play strategy right now, as Volt Switch actually comes out from this Regieleki, showing that it does have that electric type pivot move. Once again, getting a bit of recoil on due to that Life Orb onto its HP. It will actually be bringing in the Landorus right now over on his side of the field.
Yeah, I like that pivot. I think when the Landorus is on the field, you're kind of forced out as the Regieleki, so getting out with some damage down as well, really, really helpful. And being able to bring that Landorus in, pretty nice. I mean, of course, the screens are up, both options for Francesco, so it's going to be a lot of work for Max to try and wear this one down. But a double pivot, actually, as he does end up getting the parting shot down, and that Spectre is going to be a bit of a problem. Now the Landorus isn't there, he just gets to completely reset.
Absolutely, and it's just that double pivot move that just gives you so much flexibility, and Max was able to absolutely capitalize off of that right now, as the Regieleki does naturally outspeed this Spectre. It is immune to Thunder Waves as well from the Grimmsnarl, so no chance for this Grimmsnarl to go ahead and force speed control on this side of the field, as Electro Web comes out from that Regieleki. Will be bringing down the Grimmsnarl very close to getting KO'd, and it all depends on what this Landorus on Max's side of the field will actually do. The Spectre goes for the Shadow Ball, targets into the Regieleki, and will not be able to pick up a KO.
No, I mean, this Regieleki holding on, taking a lot of damage there, and the Grimmsnarl holding on with even less health. But more pivoting around from Max, really trying to find this like perfect position for himself. I mean, good damage down onto that Spectre. Definitely nice and helpful, and you know, just more pivots into this Incineroar. He is keeping that fourth and final Pokemon super secret, and making Francesco kind of just guess really what it is.
Yeah. As we did see the Spirit Break going into the Regieleki, didn't even pick up the KO because of all of those drops of the Intimidate coming out from Max's side of the field. So both players, Adam, slow playing it to the point where they could go ahead and try to click that Dynamax button and gain absolutely full momentum.
Yeah, I mean, both trainers have kind of set up drops or defense buffs, and this isn't going to be the quickest game I think we're going to see. The Spectre, a little underwhelming in its damage, but as you can see, it's been really good about being able to kind of slow things down and adjust the game. A little more supportive, but there we go. I mean, Incineroar's trying to deal the damage now, and it's not getting knockouts. It's just getting a little bit out of hand, really.
Yeah, and the Spirit Break from the Grimstyle doesn't even go connect with the Regieleki due to that Protector. So slow play, but I think in this situation, it's all about wearing down your opponent's Pokemon up until you have the correct positioning, maybe even have fake out pressure, or just have your Dynamax candidate to just try to sweep your opponent. So well played from both players, and you see Max isn't rushing as well. He is one game in advantage, so he's trying to slow play it and react to Francesco's play, because Francesco is desperate to try to get this win to force this into a game 3.
Yeah, Francesco is kind of the one who has to play this one perfectly. I think, I'm not saying that you want to go to game 3, but you at least have a little more wiggle room than the player who's down 1 already. So a lot of switching going on in this game. Definitely a little different in profile to game number 1, but I like that. I think trainers should be adapting, and we get to see something really, really different here. So we'll see what this Landorus can do, what this Regieleki is going to try and do. I like this a lot.
Ooh, goes into the Spectress. It does actually self-KO itself due to Life Orb recoil. But at that point, I think Max just wanted to try to gain as much momentum as he could, as the Will-O-Wisp actually comes up from the Spectre and connects onto the Landorus. Double up with the Spirit Break just to add that tiny bit of chip damage dealt onto its HP. But I think that's good situation for Francesco, but it will be giving Max a free switch in right now.
Yeah, I mean, Max, does have the option. He doesn't have to pivot quite as early because of the way the Life Orb functions, but he's in an interesting position now. His Landorus isn't there, and there's the final reveal. It's the Porygon 2, so maybe that Regieleki, being a large part of that damage profile and going down there could become a problem. That's now all of your special attackers gone. You're against this super supportive Spectre, which I'm really interested in and seeing a little bit more of. It's got just the Shadow Ball, the Snarl, the Taunt, and the Will-O-Wisp. Definitely a little bit different for a moveset I would expect at the Spectre. But, Francesco believes in it, and it's putting in good work. Why not?
Why not indeed, as Porygon 2 is known to be such a troublemaker on the field. It will be on Max's side. It has the option to try to go for Trick Room, of course, just trying to go ahead and get any sort of damage dealt onto both the Grimmsnarl or Spectre to get a KO, but then again, it might come down to if he could actually try to get the correct move in a slot. That is switching out, as we do see the Spectre switching out for the Galarian Moltres, as there's a good chance that Ice Beam comes out. Rock Slide definitely does, picks up a KO onto the Grimmsnarl, but it will be going ahead and proccing that weakness policy at him, and oh, does this Moltres look very threatening.
Yeah, that things you don't want to do to the Moltres as soon as it hits the field. That is high on the list for me. That is definitely up there. Giving it more boosts, not particularly cool if you're the player against the Moltres. As a Moltres player, you're probably feeling pretty good about it, but that's a big turn from Francesco, and that's going to put this Moltres in a position to maybe start rolling a little bit sooner than some of them do. We've seen it setting up the nasty plot before the Dynamax, so maybe with the weakness policy you can kind of drop that turn and just say, well, I've already got that set up, let's go, let's just go now. And I think that might be what he's mulling over, as he's kind of looking through his moves now.
Well, yeah, I think that makes sense. We do have Trick Room on the field as well, so we are going to be seeing the speed interactions between the Landorus and the Moltres, which will be moving first or whatnot. But if Francesco does opt to go for the Moltres Dynamax, it makes a lot of sense going for the Max Darkness. You want to try to gain that momentum with all of those special defensive drops onto your opponent's side of the field. So Max is going to have to try to go ahead, maybe accept whatever damage is going to be dealt with onto his Pokemon right now, as he is actually going to be opting for the Dynamax. And oh my lord, Adam, is this going to be a big duck?
It is 100%. It's absolutely going to be the big Porygon 2. I think it was the best play. I mean, why would you as soon as I saw the animation, I was like, I wouldn't Dynamax the Landorus. So yeah, I think big Porygon 2, it sets up a Trick Room and then says, all right, I'm going to try and take advantage of this situation and go from there. But it's Dynamax is on both sides. We've had a really kind of slow game so far, and small bits of damage adding up, some status conditions, a bunch of drops, a bunch of defense boosts. So now we might get to see some kind of all-out offense, and Moltres versus Big Duck is one that I don't usually get to talk about, but I am excited to see.
Absolutely. As we see the Max Hailstorm comes out, goes into the Moltres' slot. It will not be bringing it down to half of its HP's worth to get that Berserk proc. Essentially give it a +3 of special attack, as the Rock Slide can't even pick up the KO onto the Spectre. We saw that the Landorus did move first, so naturally it is slower. Max Darkness goes into the Landorus slot. Isn't quite enough to pick up a KO, but don't worry, the burn and the hail will more than be enough. The important thing is here, the special defensive drop onto that Porygon 2.
Yep, that's going to help soften it up and maybe allow Francesco to knock it out a little bit quicker. This Moltres is slowly getting worn down, waiting for the ability to activate, so maybe wanting a little more hail damage for once when you're like, oh, I'll take a little bit more. That's fun. No, I'll take it now. It's good. But Incineroar coming back in, may be able to just deal with this Spectre, but I don't know if there's really a great answer on the field for this Moltres. I mean, the Moltres is still putting in a whole bit of work.
Yeah, it really is, and I think this is Francesco's win con right now. He needs to try to win this out, essentially, not get highly damaged, because the Spectre will be going down to Hail right now, so there might be a situation where Max might actually ignore the Spectre, but then that kind of plays into Francesco being aware, and even potentially going for a Max Guard, just wanting to get his final Pokemon in from the back and make sure that this Moltres does not take too much damage.
Yeah, interesting targeting here. We'll see how this turn plays out. The Landorus comes in. I do think this is fine. Try and slow down the Incineroar if that's going to be the damage dealer. And don't let the Spectre fall down for free to hail or something. Just rogue catching it on the way in. More choices. Another Max Hailstorm. And oh no!
Oh no! Oh
dear,
no.
Oh dear. That is...
That's not what you want to see if you are Francesco right now, as we do see the parting shot coming out from the Incineroar, going into that Moltres slot, being able to bring it down to -1 of its special attack right now, as Max Darkness targeting that slot. Francesco wanting to get that chip damage, as well as just in general, obviously, the special defensive drops onto both the Porygon 2 and the Incineroar, but not a good situation for Francesco there. He kind of let that Landorus go down in a heartbeat, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the Landorus came in and was immediately asked to leave the field and told, nah, not today, Chief.
No.
And this could get kind of nasty for the Moltres. I mean, yes, it got the weakness policy boost on the way in. That was really, really nice. But Max is doing a good job at slowing it down and saying, like, nah, actually, I'm going to land parting shots, kind of just using his Trick Room to his advantage. And he's played it really well. I mean, he's not activated Moltres' ability yet, which is pretty smart, I think, overall. Even just avoiding it now, doesn't want to give it to him for free until he absolutely has to, just dealing with the Spectre. But I think there's a whole lot that this Incineroar can do to slow it down, and just racking these up is going to be definitely an interesting way to get around it.
Exactly, as we are going to be seeing the second parting shot going into it. Now the Moltres is at neutral of its special attack, and the Max Airstream goes ahead, picks up the KO onto this Incineroar. Do not forget, ladies and gents, this Porygon 2 is at -2 special defense, so it is about to accept a lot of damage coming out from this Moltres' side. And apologies, the Spectre is indeed safety goggles. It would not have been affected from the hail, so that is adds even more context to that play right there, as the Max Hailstorm did go into that slot.
Yeah, I think he just says, all right, well, I need to deal with it. I think both these Pokemon have been pretty impactful during their Dynamax turns, but this Moltres still sat above half. I think if you were Francesco, you'd feel a whole lot more confident if it had dropped just below half. But the numbers didn't quite work out there. I was trying to do some quick maths, and I wasn't quite sure how that was going to turn out. But straight up Ice Beams could be doing the work.
Oh, no. It could be. Oh, it could not.
I'm not
quite,
sure what order the animations. No.
Oh, here we go. The fiery wrath coming out, showing there that it is now at +1 due to that Berserk proc there, and it is guaranteeing 2-hit KO, as Trick Room is now no longer on the field, and Francesco is gonna force this into a third game.
Oh, that was a close all the way down, but that Trick Room expiring just so dangerous there, and I think maybe counting out those turns a little bit would have been a little more different. And maybe that turn where he targeted the Spectre, just landing the damage, accepting that the Berserk was going to go off, would have been the play, because he wasn't getting targeted by the Moltres in that turn. You know, the Moltres got the Incineroar either way, so maybe just saying, okay, I'm going to sneak in a little extra bit of damage could have helped him there. Obviously, it wasn't going to be the biggest amount of damage. Yes, the Berserk would have gone off a turn earlier, but it's still going to be close either way.
I think so, because like we did see, of course, the switch out of the Spectre there, right? So it did switch out. It did have the potential, of course, of coming into the game at a later stage and getting some snarls off as well, if it so wanted to, try to reduce that damage output from that Porygon too, because Francesco recognized Moltres was his win con. He went ahead, he sailed with that boat, and he reached the destination that he wanted to up until this point, going into Game 3. So, Adam, how are we feeling going into this one? Do you think that Max has to adapt his gameplay right there and not allow Francesco to essentially carry with that Moltres?
So I think what's interesting here is that Max completely abandoned the Venusaur that was super successful in game number 1. Obviously, he thought Francesco was going to make adaptations to play around that, but Francesco actually bought exactly the same 4 Pokemon. And it's kind of like a calling the bluff situation where he said, well, I think you're going to switch things around to kind of throw me off guard. I'm actually just going to stick with what I got. I think it's still the best 4 for this matchup. And, you know, it could really be an interesting one if Max goes back to that Venusaur and tries to run that one again. I think that might be one of his best plays. I think the Venusaur obviously has to avoid the Moltres and needs to be a little bit careful there. But it still did a whole lot, even with a Moltres available for Francesco. So a lot of options to try and kind of weave this one through. And I think the pressure now kind of swings back to Max. It says, you know, obviously the momentum and the really close ending, good for Francesco at the end there. So Max now has to find an adaptation to say, well, actually, no, I'm going to win this set. I would expect to see the Venusaur just because of how successful it was in the first round, or the first game, sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes so much sense because you just got so many options with it, essentially, as no Venusaur, Adam. We're just going to be seeing the Regieleki over on Max's side, accompanied by that Landorus Therian, as well on this side here with Francesco. We're going to be seeing the Grimmsnarl and that Spectre.
I'm not sure how I feel about this one, to be quite honest. I think the Venusaur was just alarmingly successful, and I really did want to see it again in game number 3. Francesco seemed to have these Pokemon answered quite well. I mean, the Regieleki got slowed down by the presence of the Landorus, which Francesco could just have in the back and just throw right out here. And of course, the Grimmsnarl, you know, didn't have to be messing around. It just set up the screens, which definitely really helped over the course of that game. So a lot of switching to be done. I don't think we're going to see the Dynamax once again for at least a good 4, 5, maybe even more turns as these trainers just kind of figure out their early game.
Makes a lot of sense. I completely agree as we see the Regieleki going for the Protect, and we are going to be seeing the Light Screen being set up from the Grimmsnarl and the Will-O-Wisp being targeted into that, what was before a Landorus slot, now an Incineroar Fire type, which is immune to that.
Yep, I think that was a really good switch by Max. Just being able to call that one, knowing that the Will-O-Wisp was so important in game number 2. Just saying, all right, well, I'm going to throw that fire type in there, and your Will-O-Wisp is going to be a complete waste of time. Regieleki managed to stay safe, but that does mean a completely free screen for Grimmsnarl. That means he's going to get both of them up with pretty much no damage done to himself, and you're going to have to see kind of how this one plays around. Francesco does have an interesting kind of piece of information here. Is he knows the kind of switches that Max likes to make with this lead, and this lineup. So he's in a good position, I think, to be able to try and call those and maybe make some adaptations based on what he saw in game 2.
And we did see the Thunderbolt coming down, dealing so much damage onto the Spectre. Double up from that Flare Blitz on the Incineroar towards the Spectre, now going down. As a result of that, we did see actually the Spectre before going down. It got a Will-O-Wisp connect onto the Regieleki, accompanied by a Spirit Braid that will be dealing very good chip damage. But like we were talking about, Adam, it's the fact that we recognize both players have been trying to go about the strategy of slow playing their games towards their win cons, essentially.
And I think that Spectre kind of got caught short a little bit there. It did decide to throw that Will-O-Wisp out, and I think, you know, expecting maybe more switches, or the Volt switch that we saw in game number 2 out of this Regieleki, expecting the Landorus to come back. It seems like a definite waste to just throw the Will-O-Wisp at the Regieleki, so probably expecting the Landorus there. Max doesn't give it to him, and in exchange, by mixing it up, saying, alright, I'll just Thunderbolt you instead, it puts him in a really good position, because that Spectre could have caused a lot of problems. And his Regieleki, yeah, it's burned, it took a bit of damage, but it's still got 1, maybe 2 more turns to deal damage, and he lost that really early in game number 2. So I like that this is a little bit different, and it's, you know, he's maybe going to be able to get a little more out of it, and that's his big special offensive threat.
As we are to be going ahead and seeing what both trainers have opted to go for, as Francesco is going to be switching out that Grimmsnarl for the Registeel. We have our second Registeel officially on the field right now of today, and Francesco actually opting to go for the Dynamax on his side of the field. He wants to try to gain that momentum with the Landorus Therian against Max's Pokemon, as at the minute so far we don't know if there is a Venusaur in the back. Highly unlikely that there is, unfortunately.
I don't feel it would be that play based on the Pokemon we've already seen from Max. But this Registeel is an interesting adaptation. I mean, if this Registeel isn't able to be hit by special attacks, it sets up an iron defense. Francesco could really buy himself a huge amount of time doing things that way, and an interesting choice to drop the Moltres, which was surprisingly successful for him in the previous games. You know, kept things close in game 1, helped him win game 2, so the Registeel's got big shoes to fill. I think it's safe to say.
I mean, definitely safe to say, as the Max Airstream will be dealing so much damage onto the Incineroar, even though it has had its attack dropped from that Intimidate ability coming out from the Landorus. It does, of course, reveal Life Orb Recoil, as we actually see the Taunt coming out from the Incineroar into the Landorus slot, maybe expecting a Swords Dance play set up from the Landorus before going on to Dynamax it.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting term from Max to say, well, I don't want you to set up your Landorus, I'm going to try and stop you doing that. The Landorus just doesn't care and just decides, you know what, Dynamax, I'm going to be the damage dealer here. I'm going to try and carry through this game. And setting up those Max Airstreams, I mean, Registeel's not a particularly fast Pokemon, but maybe if you get all 3, you know, Airstreams going, all of those boosts, you might be able to get it to outspeed some stuff and see what it can do there. But the Incineroar is something that, you know, would be a good option to deal with this Registeel, and that now has to leave the field just because of how low it is. And it's been taking, you know, Intimidate drops too.
I think in this scenario, Max has a lot of advantage being able to get those Intimidate pivots going for himself. You saw him switch out the Incineroar now for the Regieleki. He will be able to bring it back in to neuter the damage output of the Landorus on Francesco's side, as Registeel right now seems to be the win con for Francesco. Trying to get those boosts going with the Max Airstream, giving it more speed. It does actually pick up a KO onto the Regieleki, just showing how powerful this Landorus is with the Life Orb, even at -1, and you could argue how vulnerable and should I say brittle this Regieleki is over on Max's side, and Registeel just doing Registeel things, getting Iron Defense boost going for himself.
Yeah, that Iron Defense boost is going to be really rather important here, and particularly that Max Airstream, meaning it got to get the boost before the Landorus on Max's side got to move, takes that Max Quake a lot better than if it didn't have those boosts. So it's getting itself in a good position, and importantly, Max isn't actually able to, you know, pick up that knockout there. That gives Registeel another turn to play the game, and that turn where he's throwing out the Max Quakes, it's turns he's not trying to match those Airstreams either. So Francesco is getting a big advantage in the speed situation here. Of course, you've got to maybe slow things down for a turn with the return of Incineroar. You know, those are going to be interesting. But if you could weave in another Iron Defense and then just start body pressing, this Registeel will not care about the Intimidates. And the Landorus has kind of done its thing, and just by getting, you know, so many speed boosts from these max airstreams.
Yeah. I mean, exactly that. And I think Francesco recognizes that is his win con. It's all about if Max will be able to accurately call the turns that he needs to try to slow down and get rid of this Registeel, essentially, because Registeel is the main threat right now. He needs to dispose of it if he wants to go ahead and progress into tomorrow's top 8.
Yep, I mean, this is a knockout round. You've got to play everything perfectly. I think Registeel being very smart here. Doesn't want to get caught out by the fake out. Doesn't look like that was even the option, but he has to respect it. And Incineroar, just going to get taken off the field. That is going to be a problem.
Definitely going to be a problem. I would have thought maybe Max would have preferred being able to switch it out and kind of protect it for future turns. Another Intimidate, another Fake Out. But no, he didn't switch it out. He wants to bring in the Pokemon he has in the back safely. Max Quake goes into the Registeel's Protect right there. We'll be getting yet another Max, sorry, should I say special defensive boost on its side. But at this point, that doesn't matter at all. This Registeel needs to be stopped. And Francesco is trying to run away with this.
Yeah, this Registeel in a really good position to protect, respecting the potential of a fake out from the Incineroar. I'm not 100% sure if it has it, but you got to respect that. And of course, being able to say no, actually, I don't want to deal with the Max Quake before I can guarantee set up another Iron Defense boost. And this Porygon 2 is going to be to do a whole lot, I think, because this Landorus over on Max's side is you know, going to be getting caught out, I think, pretty soon.
Surely it will, because right now the fact that Registeel is definitely going to be faster than this Landorus, and getting another Iron Defense boost going if it wants to, but it would survive the Max Quake, but then it wouldn't be getting rid of the Porygon 2. So it's a bit of a tough situation right now. Very close. I'm not sure about the damage calculation from the Max Quake going into that Registeel if it can actually pick up the KO, but I feel like we're about to find out.
Yeah, and don't forget, Francesco does have the Pokemon advantage. I think he's going to start using that here with a nice switch into the Grimmsnarl, resetting all of those drops that Landorus took earlier. So this is a really good adaptation as Registeel, even while low on health, still thinks it can take this Landorus on. We'll see exactly if it's able to do that as the Max Quake comes out.
Into the Registeel and does not pick up the KO. Oh my lord, what a steel giant we've got on Francesco's side right now. But even if the Trick Room was to be set up here, it wouldn't exactly be the best situation. There's no Trick Room being set up. Ice Beam into that slot, so showing Francesco gaining so much momentum just from that good switch in there.
Yeah, fantastic switch in there, being able to keep the Landorus out of danger and just saying, nah, I don't want to deal with this. Porygon 2 about to get caught with probably one of the nastiest body presses I've seen in a long time. No way for it to protect, and the Registeel is outspeeding this Landorus after all of those airstreams. Porygon, oh my word, I've never seen a Porygon's health bar go down that fast.
Ladies and gents, that is not something you commonly see at all, as Earthquake will be coming out. Can this even pick up a KO? It does not! Registeel says no! Dearie me! As the Spirit... Oh my lord, Spirit Break goes ahead and it will connect, of course, with the Landorus, but Registeel, you can see Francesco's just so happy that it is proving to be such a valuable asset and will be going ahead and giving him that progression onto top 8.
What an absolute beast. Like, I know it was low, I know it's got 4 stages of increased defense, but it's still amazing to watch the Landorus struggle to get there. Registeel is... It's a threat. People need to start respecting it a little bit more, just to make sure the numbers look good for him. Francesco's switching in the Landorus. Maybe with the Intimidate you can take another one, but I don't think we're going to get there. I think the body press should just be able to deal with it. 4 stages of increased defense. Landorus, no, not quite. Not there, because it's not as easy a knockout as it was on the Porygon.
No, it is not. And the Registeel will finally be going ahead and taking a knee, as it will be knocked out from that earthquake there. But in this scenario, Francesco has all of the momentum going for himself. He needs to land. Oh, I feel like Max's way out would be to somehow, you know, like influence Francesco to miss all of his rock slides and flies at this point. But even then, it's just too much out of his reach to bring this back.
Yeah, I think there's enough options in there for Francesco to be able to land that damage. Grimsnarl just making sure, throwing up that reflect.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is still going to be completely Francesco's game here. He looks pretty excited over there on the player cam, and it doesn't even matter. Doesn't even go to another turn as, you know, Max's Landorus just falls. There was a lot going on in that set, but it is going to be Francesco Pio taking it and advancing on to the next round. My stomach hurts a little bit from giggling about Registeel. There's a lot to unpack there.
I know. I mean, my lord. The fact that it's just so bulky naturally, you go ahead and you just boost it up with speed, with even more defense, with a reflect because you can. It just goes to show why this is such a threat of a Pokemon. You need to try to mark it down. Kind of like what we saw in the previous set, where we saw Marco Silva recognize and try to get rid of, dispose of that Registeel with the Max Flare. This needed to happen a bit sooner from Max's side. He just let it get its boost. Sure, the Landorus was the choice of Dynamax. It wasn't getting the KOs that it really wanted to and the damage output, but that was not the threat. Registeel was always the threat in that scenario.
Yeah, as soon as he got the first Iron Defense, it looked pretty solid. I also like the Registeel there because if the Venusaur was coming in, it would have been a nice switch into those Max Oozes that we saw in game one. So really kind of good adaptation. I was a little concerned when I didn't see the Moltres that was so successful in game two, but Registeel showed why it's worth one of those slots on the team for Francesco. So a lot going on in that set, but a really good kind of representation of just how good Registeel can be.
It really, really was. But of course, GG's to both those players there, being able to go ahead and give us a lot of entertainment, a lot of very good plays from both sides. We're going to go ahead and cut to a short break, and we will be immediately back for our 4th out of 8 remaining matches for today. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a bit.